We are going live on the YouTube.
Okay, I got the notification for the Facebook. Hey peeps, I was going to wait for a couple of people to come into the room. So just waiting to see, but very excited about today. Getting ready, kicking off the march to jolly London town today. So very excited about that. We'll chat a little bit more. We're just going to wait for a bunch of peeps to come in. Yeah, one person is in. Might be me. Two. Hello, two people. We'll wait till we have about, I'll say 10 people. We'll give it at least either there or like 3 minutes, whatever comes first.
We'll be good.
Yep. If you're in the chat in iBats, either on the VCN or on Facebook, say hi. One person just left, so not quite sure. Oh, I see one. Hello there, Jeff. Hey, Scooby, how are you? Yep. I see Heather and I see Scooby. Hello, very excited. Glad to be here for that. Mr. O'Neill, how are you, sir? Let's give it another minute or two, but hope everybody's doing grand, as they say. It's about 1:30 on the East Coast, 10:30 on the Pacific, and around 6:32 over in Ireland right now, Gary?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. 4 people, well, 5. Okay, well, I think we can get started. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first Intergalactic news desk for Star Wars Celebration Europe 2023. They said my volume's really, really low. Okay, we're very glad to be here today to be discussing all things getting ready for Celebration in London. My name is Spencer. I am one of the admins for the Star Wars Celebration fan group. Marching on 43,000 members worldwide, galaxy-wide, which is pretty damn awesome if you ask me. And also one of the heads of the virtual Cantina. And I am glad to be joined today by, first and foremost, the first friend that I made in Orlando 2017 by happenstance on multiple occasions, but also our brother from across the pond. You might know him from Blob of the Hut podcast, which is Ireland's premier Star Wars podcast. Also a member of the 501st Legion, Ireland Garrison, and the Emerald Garrison. Let's give it up for my good brother from the Force, Mr. Gary O'Toole. Gary, how are you, mate?
Spencer, we're back again. It seems like only yesterday that we did our first show together, and post-celebration, here we are talking about Celebration Europe, and the build-up has already begun.
10 months away, people. 10 months away. As of today, 41 weeks and 1 day until day 1 of Celebration Europe. You know something? We were discussing this after we finished up Celebration Anaheim, which was exactly a month ago right now. A lot of us were heading over to California. But at the same time, we found out the dates, we found out when, we found out where, and we're going back to London, which is absolutely fantastic. Also, if this was not a driving force, I'm wearing my 40th Empire shirt, but we are going towards the march for the 40th anniversary of Return, or as we call it, Revenge of the Jedi, next year, which is pretty damn awesome. But we'll get into it a little bit later. I just want to do some housekeeping first. First and foremost, we're not affiliated with Lucasfilm, Reed Pop, Disney, Official Picks. We are entirely a fan group run by fans for the fans. So take that as you may, but the information is as if coming for the fans for the fans. We don't have anything prior. Now here's a quick question. We do one thing Star Wars Celebration seems to do is we seem to be over holiday weekends, whether it have been in Orlando, we were over Easter weekend in the United States. This past celebration, we were over Memorial Day weekend, but we are going to be over Easter weekend over in Europe. Now, I know it's big everywhere, but I know it's really big over on our brothers and sisters side over the pond. Gary, why don't you talk about how that's going to affect the travel industry, especially as people are starting to look to make the hop over on our end?
Well, first and foremost, spoiler alert, if you've never been to London, it is one of the busiest places you will ever go to without it being Easter. But obviously with it being over the Easter weekend, it is going to be insanely busy. Now, we are blessed that Europe has an incredible transportation system. We have the DLR light rail and all of the rail services, and also quite close to Excel is the Emirates Skycar, which is also a lovely way to travel to and from the Excel Centre. But essentially what it means for us is that accommodation is going to fill up super quick. In newsflash, it already has. The price has been jacked up a heck of a lot. That's further impacted by, I'm sure everyone will have heard the term and be familiar with Brexit. That's obviously causing a fluctuation in the exchange rates for currencies, which we will be mentioning as well. But essentially what it's going to mean is for that weekend, without the convention going on, London is going to be incredibly busy. So it is going to be so important that you plan accordingly to make the most out of the convention and then anything you do outside of celebration while in London.
Now, one of the things we're going to recommend is, even though we know for a fact that the official blocks of hotels around the Excel have not been announced yet, doesn't mean you can't get a jump start on looking at hotels and Airbnbs and Verbos and whatever in the area. I found a hotel about 7 miles away from the Excel, which is only 2 tube stops away, which is fantastic, through Marriott and Hilton with no money down, and I can cancel within 3 days for there. So at least I know I have something and maybe can change to something closer, once that opens up. But our recommendation is that if you start to research now and at least book something, the first thing we're going to recommend is you want to make sure that you are on the east side of the river town, heading out close into the middle of town and into the suburbs. It's going to be a lot longer to get into where you need to go for Excel. Keep that. I'm staying in Greenwich, which, like I said, is 7 miles outside. But transportation is going to be crazy. But what's your recommendation, Gary? Besides the fact that making sure that you're as close to the east side if possible.
Yeah, so the sort of trade-off with this is that if you're looking to stay as close as possible, you are going to be paying a premium price for that. Unfortunately, with it being the Easter weekend and London already being a very, very expensive place, that's not going to make a difference. But if we're talking about recommendations, you'll see the vast majority of people looking to stay around the likes of Canary Wharf, the Docklands, areas like that, pretty close to the XL. A lot of people will look to stay around the area of where the O2 Arena is, because the O2 Arena makes XL accessible via the Skycar. But with it being London and the transportation system being so good, as we mentioned, particularly the Docklands light rail and then the actual the underground itself, personally speaking, for this weekend, I wouldn't be staying more than 10-15 miles away, because with it being so busy, even though it is only 2 or 3 stops, with this being the first convention, the first celebration in Europe post-COVID, we're not quite sure how the queuing system is going to go, whether we will need to be there early. I think we're assuming that the lottery is potentially going to still be in place for this year, but it may be a case of that you are going to need to be there early to get things done and to get into what you want to see. But for me personally, staying no more than 10-15 miles away, as Spencer said, with the hotels, the cancelable rates that you don't pay up front for will be jacked up, and that's what you will pay a premium for. But the one recommendation that I have above all, and I think, Spencer, we obviously talked about this a lot, is check out your flights early. The one thing that you will potentially need to take a hit on paying for up front is your flights. So plan your flights accordingly.
Absolutely, especially for those who are coming, obviously, from America. Well, let's just say that. I mean, obviously, we're mostly talking as if it was the other way around. There's a lot to do in London. There's a lot to do in the area, but also you want to think about as well. There's also a little bit of time difference. There's a 5 to 6 hour time difference, as you know. You might have noticed from some of our mistakes on our advertisements, trying to get things queued up. But the thing is having just traveled myself over to Europe, making sure giving yourself at least a day or two to get acclimated time-wise, because right off the bat, we're talking about, if it's 10 a.m., let's just say that's what time the con's going to start on that Friday, then that is 4 a.m. in Boston or New York. Now, 4 a.m., that's 1 a.m. out in Los Angeles. So give yourself a day or two to get acclimated beforehand. We'll talk about, things to do later on, but, if you can get yourself in there, at least maybe by like Monday, Tuesday, to get yourself situated, that you'll probably be in the best shape you can be going into celebration on Friday. Another thing that we're going to talk about right now is keeping an eye on the exchange rate. Now, I can tell you, as having just traveled over Europe, is I did get money from my own personal bank into euros, but it is going to be the pound. So the pound's going to be a little bit different, but also want to make sure that you have pounds on you and not getting exchanged either at the airport or on the street, because I paid an additional $50 going to a change place in Florence, just to get more money. But Gary, why don't you talk about the concerns that you had mentioned to me, about what the dollar to pound is going to look like come April?
Well, the value has been pretty terrible lately. Obviously, we did mention Brexit, and then the sort of toll that is having on the currency exchange rate. So that is a concern. I think last I checked, the euro was worth maybe about 83 cents, and I think we said the dollar was only a couple of cents varied in the difference at the moment. So the big issue for me is when you are going to a convention with the XL in the XL Center, there are very, very little ATMs. So it is vital that you actually have cash on you then and there, because if you are using your Revolut or your bank card, and let's say something goes wrong and you need to be able to get cash, there are not very, very many ATMs around the XL Center. From what I can remember off the top of my head, there are 2 of them that are near the west entrance. There is another one in the Boulevard area, which when we maybe talk about celebration later on, we can talk about how it's laid out. And then there's all 2 ATMs on the level 0, which is sort of the ground level. And then if any of those run out of cash, your only other option then is you need to leave the XL Centre to go to the local Tesco Express, which I believe had one ATM. So having cash on you and having currency is going to be a big, big thing. But what I would advise you to do is get the currency in your own country before you leave. Do not come over here and exchange money. Have it with you ready to go. Because if you are staying around the XL area, there are not too many banks and bureau de change around. You will actually need to go into more so London city centre for that. So I would have your money exchanged, ready to go. Keep it in an envelope, keep it safe, however you do. And when you get to the hotel, put it in the safe and keep it away for when you need it.
I mean, same thing as we would say for celebration for the United States. Cash is king. So I'm sure it's going to be the same thing over there. Obviously, you know, there are some bank protections against skimming and all that jazz, but you don't want to get stuck there without any money, making sure that, you know, you have your credit cards all emptied out and, you know, everything that you need to do. You don't want to make yourself, you know, but we'll give you more tips like this as the months progress. We just want to at least get it in your brain now. Like I said, we're 41 weeks and 1 day until we get to celebration. But speaking of saving, as I mentioned, it's 41 weeks until celebration. So if you're paid weekly or bi-weekly, my honest recommendation is taking an envelope and putting aside 50 to 100 US dollars a week into that envelope. So if you're weekly, it's $100 a week or $50 a week, or $100 every 2 weeks or $200 every 2 weeks. That way, you know that walking into celebration, you're going to have 4,100 US dollars or 2050 US dollars. I mean, I'm particularly recommending that you at least have, not including your travel and pre-ordering your autographs and everything like that, walking into celebration with at least $2,000 going over to Europe. Obviously, over having a celebration in the United States, I got away with $700 in Orlando, and then I learned the system and realized, okay, well, I need to up my budget. But having that is going to save you a lot of headache and a lot of trouble, because you'll be able to buy stuff that you want to buy. You're not gonna get stuck. Plus, also food and everything you want to do from there. Anything you want to say? You know, about that, Gary?
Just kicking on from what you've said, if there are people, another way of saving, if there are people who use a Revolut card, a lot of users still aren't aware that you can actually create a vault where if you spend so much, let's say over a week or a month, any spare change that is left in your account at the end, you can actually create a vault for a specific purpose and you can automatically put money away. So like Spencer was saying, if you're looking to put away maybe $50 to $100 a month, even something as simple as if you are a Revolut card user, create a vault specifically for celebration, and you can set any amount you like to be put away, or otherwise at the end of the month, once your expenses are paid, any spare change that you have, whether it might be $5, $10, it will go straight to a vault where it will be kept safe and you won't touch it. And that will slowly build up your funds for celebration, because I think next year, with it being the anniversary of ROTJ, we're probably going to need it.
Yeah, and Dave O'Neill just put a great comment in the chat on Facebook. Make sure if you can get an RFID blocker wallet, that would be a great thing as well. Just make sure.
Which
he said he
we
got
mentioned
one
on our previous episode.
Yep, absolutely. So make sure you do that. But I also want to plug the fact is, I want to thank our man behind the curtain, Hefe, Jeff on the other side. He's producing the show today, so thank you very much, Jeff. He is also monitoring Facebook, so if you have any questions, Jeff will monitor that side. I am monitoring over on the Virtual Cantina Network. So if you're watching us on YouTube, welcome over there. I can actually see that the king himself, Darth Elvis, is actually watching us on the VCN right now. So Greg, it's always a pleasure to see you, good sir. If you were in Anaheim, you did see the king appear at Bunta Eve, which is absolutely fantastic. And obviously he appeared at the Bash as well. But as well, so going on from there, there's several things you wanted to talk about. Now, we're going to also talk about, first and foremost, if you don't have a passport, make sure start applying now. I would recommend, in the next week or so, getting the application, making your appointment, just so you're not in a rush later on, and also checking the date on your expiration. You don't want to be going into celebration saying, "Oh yeah, I have another 5 years," and realize you have 3 weeks or no time at all. So make sure about that. But before we got into the airports and the local transportation and everything like that nature, Gary, I want to talk about the Oyster card that we're going to recommend that everybody get as far as traveling around London.
The Oyster card is key. Imagine it almost as a MasterCard for the transportation options in London. Essentially, it is a card that's almost like a prepaid card. You can top it up with any amount of money that you want or you think you will need throughout the throughout your stay in London. And as you are using it, whether it is bus, train, DLR, whatever the case may be, you will be able to use that card. And I haven't used it for a while. I haven't had an Oyster card since Celebration 2016, but I don't think the prices have fluctuated too much. But it does save you a good bit of money, and it is convenient to just have that little card there where if you are in a bit of a rush to go somewhere, if you see a bus and you have to run for it, you've got your Oyster card there. You're not scrounging around your change purse looking for change. And that's important as well, because a lot of the machines, they do take debit or credit card, if you swipe it or contactlessly scan it. But unfortunately, as Spencer mentioned, with the skimming being rampant, it's not something you probably want to take the chance on. So look up having an Oyster card, and if you can order it and get one, if there is the possibility that somebody who can pick it up for you to have it ready for you, ready to go, or if there is the possibility of getting it delivered to where you'll be staying, whether that's an apartment or a B&B. So when you arrive, it is already there for you, and it is just a matter of topping it up.
Now, without having to go, like, for example, to an underground stop or anything of that nature, is that something that you could potentially pick up like at a convenience store or anything of that nature?
I think we actually picked ours up when we were at the Emirates Skycar. I think there was a store around there that did it, from what I can remember. That was back in 2016. But yeah, there are so many places that you can go and pick up an Oyster card. Or I think if you go onto the actual transportation website that runs it, there are a list of ways that you can obtain your Oyster card.
Now, this is a question actually on our YouTube page. I want to give out to. So Dark obviously you could also tap with your go with mobile, bar card, smartwatch, etc. Greg, where would you recommend around the London area could someone pick up an Oyster card? I just figured why not ask him, since he's right, in the chat there. But the birthday boy, Mr. John Notman, just said the Oyster card can be used on all major London transportation methods except for a private taxi. You could get it at all underground and railway stations, yes. But while we're waiting for an answer, give me 1 second. Thinking with that in mind, as mentioned before, there's going to be a couple of different things, ways to travel. Obviously, the underground, the bus. There is Uber available, and there's something called Bolt, which is like the American equivalent of Lyft, which is the competitor to Uber. So keep that in mind. But Gary, why don't you talk about the different airports and the potential going around?
So in London, there are a lot of airports, but I would say the vast majority of people who are traveling over, they would focus on 3 of them. So it would be Heathrow, Gatwick, and then London City. So to give a bit of a breakdown of it, when you fly into Heathrow, I think Heathrow is about 20 plus miles away, but with Heathrow, there is the Heathrow Express, which is a train that takes you into the city centre around, I think, Paddington Station, and then you can alight from there and transfer to rail and the DLR to get you to where you need to go at the XL Centre. And also recently, I think it was this year or last year, maybe Greg can correct me on this, that there was the Elizabeth line that opens in terms of rail, which is actually a direct link to the XL Centre from Heathrow. Then we have Gatwick, which I think is about 20 something miles away as well in a different direction. And again, you can get a train then, I think for the a train in then I think you transfer from the Jubilee line to get to, I think that drops you then to Canning Town, and then you will make your way to the XL Centre. And then the most convenient one of all, which is the one I try fly into at all times, which is London City Airport, which is less than a 1 mile walk from the XL Centre.
Awesome. John Notman actually in the Facebook chat said that the London Docklands Light Railway, which I know is the one that's near where we're staying. Yeah. In Greenwich, you can get your Oyster cards there. Greg and Lila said probably the website is pretty much a way to look. They said the website's actually pretty easy to look at that. So things to do outside of Celebration. London is a hive, if you want to say, of fine things to do, whether it be cultural, sightseeing. As you can see behind us, we got Big Ben Parliament, on our backdrop. Thanks, Dave, for making that. Also, if you want to go to the West End, if you want to do some touring, one thing I might want to do myself is I might want to take a train to go to the Warner Brothers studio to do the Potter set tour, which is a nice day trip. But what other things around London would you also recommend? Besides the typical sightseeing kind of thing that people might want to do.
What's great about London is that no matter where you go, there is something to see. So when we were at Celebration London, one thing we actually did was we actually just decided to hop on the DLR and just get a little bit lost. We randomly picked somewhere, just to go and walk around and just take in everything and soak in the atmosphere. The one big thing we did was we took the Emirates Sky Car, which is brilliant. That is a way, obviously, to get to Excel, but we actually got up there and we actually took in the scenery. Another thing that is pretty cool to do near there is go and see the O2 Arena in London, which is an incredible venue. It's fantastic. Like it's so big, it's huge. And one particular one that's particularly enjoyable is a lot of the London zoos are very, very popular. So if you are into whether it's zoos or conservation or anything like that, that is, things that are pretty cool to do. But then, of course, we can talk about going to any of the famous shopping districts, which is probably an enormous one. A lot of people go down the shopping districts in the hope of seeing maybe a celebrity or a big name out and about in London. So
right.
That's probably something that should be on the list. But what I would say is there are so many different avenues that you can go down in terms of what to see and what to do in London. So there are so many tourist advisory websites and things like that. But you sort of mentioned the big one on my mind, going to the Warner Brothers studios to do the Potter tour. That is sort of the big one that I think everyone should experience.
Yeah, that's definitely on my list. I'm right now planning to be there a couple of days earlier. We'll talk as to why in a little bit. But the Potter tour is part of what I want to do. The zoo, the London Zoo, is absolutely fantastic. It's also very close to Regent's Park, which is like literally right in the center of where you want to go from the suburbs.
Yep.
Whereas, you're a history buff or a novelist, it's not far from Baker Street. And if you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes, you know exactly what Baker Street is right there.
And you can check out the Sherlock Holmes Hotel.
Absolutely. But I used to go to the London Zoo quite often as a kid. My parents actually helped me, as a birthday present one year, helped me adopt to help feed a chimpanzee and stuff of that nature. So that's actually really, really cool. But yeah, there's so much to do around London. There's actually a Star Wars exhibit from hearing right now at the London Madame Tussauds, which, just to let you guys know, that's the original Madame Tussauds. So there might be other ones you might have gone to where there have been in New York or in California or Las Vegas. The one in London is the original one. It's got more, and it has the Star Wars exhibit right now. Obviously, you know, the Trafalgar Square and the British Museum and Knightsbridge. There's a whole bunch of great things to look at. And obviously, you know, if you're a music fan, you know, not just because of being a Beatle fan, Abbey Road Studios, St. John's Wood. I mean, that besides the crosswalk there, that's where John Williams, the maestro, recorded everything that we know and love as far as Star Wars concerned. And you never know who might be walking in and out. I know one of our autographing friends who basically has sat outside there with his Star Wars stuff, and when there he knows they're recording just to get things signed. So you never know those as opportunities. But the main thing we're going to
I was just going to say we probably would be amiss, even though we're talking about the fans of music. If anybody is a sports fan, obviously being in London, you can go to one of the many soccer team stadiums or actually go to see a Premier League match or anything that might be on, because the stadium tours and the venues are incredible. So there is lots and lots there to do. So
the main reason we're going to London, besides the fact is that it's an awesome opportunity to go to London, is we're going for Celebration. And the last Celebration was 2016. So there's a lot of misconceptions about Celebration over in Europe than versus the United States, because what we think is big is small over there. And what they think is big over there is small for us. But Gary, why don't you talk about the experience of Celebration 2016 at the Excel?
The experience of Celebration 2016, if we compare a Celebration Europe to a US Celebration, it's a totally different box of frogs altogether. It's completely different. First of all, the size, scale, and scope. The likes of a Celebration Anaheim versus a Celebration London, the numbers don't compare. The XL Centre is not very, very big in terms of convention centre sizes. So you'll probably find that Celebration Europe will be a lot smaller and a lot quieter in terms of you will be able probably to see a lot more, you will be able to take in a lot more, and you will be able to do a lot more. So for example, in 2016, when we didn't have the lottery days, we were the ones who queued and slept overnight to get our wristbands for the panels and the exclusive merch. Essentially, we would be leaving our hotel at around maybe 8:30, 8:45 in the morning, which is not early at all. And when we got over there, we were still able to pick up all of the wristbands that we wanted, and there were still wristbands available for the convention exclusive merch. So it's a lot quieter, it's a lot more mellow now. Obviously, next year being the ROTJ anniversary, that may change things a little bit, but in terms of the numbers that can fit into the XL Centre versus somewhere like an Anaheim, it'll be very, very different. So I would say with this Celebration, if this is going to be your first one, it'll be a good one to experience because there'll be less numbers. It will be less crowded than some of the bigger celebrations. I mean, Spencer, we know what it was like when we were in Orlando. It was just absolutely a tin of sardines. The amount of people was just insane. So with this one, it'll be a lot quieter, a lot more mellow, and I would say it will be a lot more of an easy-going experience. That's probably the big thing I would say, is that the numbers and the scale and scope, even the Celebration and the Galaxy stage are nowhere near as big as some of the stages that are in some of the other event centers which have held Celebration. So that's probably the one thing that I'm probably looking forward to most, is seeing just how mellow and calm it is after the craziness of COVID.
Right. How, like, the biggest channel, was it difficult to get a ticket for it back in 16?
No, it most certainly was not difficult to get a ticket. Obviously, the Jedi Knights sell out within a couple of minutes, but I believe coming up to the run up, maybe 3-4 weeks leading up to it, there were still some 4-day tickets that were available for it. So it wasn't particularly difficult to get a ticket. Now, as we've said again, it being the anniversary of ROTJ, that will make a difference. So if you are looking to get your tickets, get your 4-day tickets early, because when there's an anniversary or there's a big milestone event coming up at Celebration, you just don't know how it's going to end up. But in 2016, no, it wasn't very difficult to get a ticket at all.
How many people would you say were there in 2016?
I'm not actually sure what the cap was put at. I don't know whether it's changed per event for Celebration. It was, put this way, it was easily 6 figures, but just how low it was compared to the likes of a Celebration US, I'm not sure. I would maybe want to say maybe 40,000-50,000. Maybe that's my conservative estimate. Now it could have been lower, but I'm not 100% sure. I think I had the numbers somewhere.
So Celebration Orlando through Anaheim, we're looking at 65 to about 95,000. So if we're looking at 30 to 45.
It didn't reach anywhere near the upper echelons of that.
So you're looking at least half of that. So, that'll be a little bit more manageable for those who are thinking of size-wise. And how big was the store? Was it difficult to get in the store over in London?
No, it actually wasn't. And I actually had to pull up one of my old maps here. Let me see if I can find it. It kind of looks like a bit of a sand crawler. So the way it was laid out for level 0 and level 1 was that the biggest thing they had was the Galaxy stage and the autograph hall. They were tucked away over where all of the vendors were. And believe it or not, I think the queue hall is actually bigger than the Galaxy stage, if I remember right. So that's to give you an idea of the kind of size and scale and scope. But the shop and the pickup area were not big at all. Remember how big it was in Orlando? Maybe go half the size of that, roughly.
Okay. And was it easy to manage? I know the one in Orlando was a nightmare to get in. I didn't even try it. And then the last 2 ones were just horrible in itself. So
it was quite easy. It was quite easy to manage. It was quite easy to manage and get in, but the lightning lane was a bit of an overkill for people constantly coming in and out.
Right. So remember, if you have any questions in the Facebook, please put it in. Jeff, let us know at the end. And also, if you're on the VCN on YouTube, put it in the chat and I will answer it a little bit later on. We've had a couple of questions as far as the ADA is concerned over in London. Now, I've done some reading as far as that, and some people recommending the sunflower lanyard, just something else. But I know you got ADA and I did as well in Orlando. What was the setup like for that in London?
The setup for that in London, I didn't encounter too many people that actually needed to use it, but there were not. I didn't hear of any issues for anyone who was going through it. From what I can remember, it was set up almost amalgamated with pickup for roll call.
Okay.
So it was sort of an all-in-one process. So didn't encounter too many people who had to go through it, but from what I know of people who did go through it, it ran very, very smoothly, and there was absolutely no issues in getting their credentials looked after and getting all the paperwork signed off. There was no issues at all.
And did they do like a separate line, like for example for autographs and panels, like they did, like for example in Orlando, or was it the same line?
Yeah,
and they just looked out?
No, it was the same as they did in Orlando for the most part. It was broken into the schedules for the autographs and then the pictures as well.
Awesome. And after events, now obviously people look forward to certain events such as the Bash, and also they had over in England for 2016 an event called #Cantina, which is a live music event. But we just want to let people know there will be Boon to Eve London, which will be literally 41 weeks from today. It's Thursday night, which is the 6th of April. More information in the coming weeks and months for that. But where, besides like #Cantina and the Bash, what other sort of events were happening after hours around Celebration London?
There were just so many random events happening. Basically, if you were in a queue, let's say for exclusive merch, or if you were waiting to get your autograph or your photos done, you would meet up with somebody and they would say, look, there's a party happening tonight in XYZ. Are you coming? Here's where we're staying. Here's where we can meet. So what I would say, the sort of after show party scene for Celebration London, it's always spontaneous. There is just always something going on. There's always somebody arranging a meetup or somewhere that's going to pack out a venue. A lot of people will go over to, as I previously mentioned, the O2 for the simple reason that there's a lot of sort of bars and restaurants around there that maybe will sort of be the place to meet in the middle and then figure out where everybody is going to go.
Did you go to Bash or #Cantina in 2016?
Yes, we were there in Cantina. Yeah, we absolutely were. Cantina was amazing. It that was my sort of first proper after party experience for Celebration, and it was incredible. It really, really was. And then obviously the fantastic work that you guys have been doing with the likes of the with Boon to Eve, and then the 501 having the Bash then, which is another enormous thing, which I can't imagine it won't be going ahead next year. So there will be lots of post-celebration events going on throughout the days.
How far was Bash and Cantina from the Excel in 2016?
Oh, 15, 20 minutes, if even.
Okay. So easy to get to.
Yeah. If that's the one thing with it. If there is a major event like that, it will always be so. Well, London is easily accessible anyway, but it will always be somewhere central and localized where everybody can meet and everyone can come and join together. That will always be the way with something like that.
Have any lightsaber meetups or anything of that nature? I know it was big, over here, obviously during Orlando all the way to Anaheim. But did they do anything like that during 2016?
I didn't encounter any of it, but I had my media pass in 2016, so I was more off doing sort of media things than we were at after party events. But I believe there were a few meetups like that.
Cool. And what did they have, like the major exclusives like Funko, Lego, Hasbro over in 2016, or was that mostly a stateside sort of scenario?
That was mostly stateside. I think there were a couple of Celebration exclusives, which was more mostly the pins and some of the plushies. I think there might have been one or two Funkos, but apart from that, there wasn't too many exclusive merch like that, because the big focus for Celebration in 2016 was Rogue One. So that was sort of everything was focused around the Rogue One announcements.
Was there a lot of vendors and fan tables at 2016?
A lot of vendors, a lot of fan tables. The Celebration art, particularly in 2016, was phenomenal. It was amazing. I think I can maybe pan my camera here, just give people a little bit of a look at one of the major Celebration pieces. The Vader piece, that was one of them.
Oh wow!
So the art show that year in particular was absolutely. It was amazing. It really and truly was. And I would say that's going to be a big focus now is that.
Awesome. If you have questions, let's know those two questions from John Amundsen. Thank you very much, John. But please put it either in the Facebook for Jeff, or I am monitoring the VCN right now on YouTube. But while we're waiting for that, anything you want to plug going on Blah Blah Hut currently and your plans for Celebration?
We do have a number of good things up and coming. We have got some interviews which we still haven't released due to the likes of some technical issues. So we do have our interview with Kevin Kiner coming up very, very soon. So if you're familiar with the name Kevin Kiner, our amazing composer, we will also have an interview coming up hopefully soon with a certain somebody in the chat that rhymes with Mart Pelvis. So that should be an exciting chat. But also we are in the process of hopefully getting to chat to some folks who may or may not have been in the Book of Boba Fett and most recently Kenobi.
Fantastic. Some good stuff. Some very, very stuff going on over there. I also want to plug right now on Universal Cantina Network that tonight we are watching the finale of Kenobi on the watch along. So please make sure you join us for that. This weekend we have another episode of Unifying Force. And also what would be very exciting is the episode of Rebels Revisited this coming Monday. They're going to talk very much as to the influence of Rebels on the Kenobi show, which if you watch this last episode, it was very much heavily influenced by Dave Filoni and Rebels. So that's going to be some great things to watch out for there on there. We got a question right there. Do you think there'll be more of a heavy European presence in the autograph hall and the panels, or do you think they might fly in a lot of people as well? And I know that they're very selective when they bring over people to the United States, but because Pinewood and Levingston and a lot of the studios over there, they have access to a lot of the actors as well.
I normally I would have been saying yes. I would have said the vast majority would be sort of a European presence. However, the fact that it's the anniversary of ROTJ, that changes up things entirely. But also we need to consider, let's say, the state of play at the moment regarding the Disney Plus content. And what I mean by that is you have Kenobi, which has ended now. We're not going to put any spoilers here, but a certain Kathleen Kennedy did comment I think it was maybe yesterday, that they were intent that it was just going to be a limited series, but if there is enough fan drive that maybe they could do something different. But also you're looking at Andor, which I think was a lot of it was filmed in London at Pinewood from what I heard. So that's probably going to be another thing that will be in the works as well. But the overwhelming attendance will be the UK and European audience, but with the anniversary of ROTJ coming in, don't rule anyone coming over. Don't rule it out.
Or at least, phoning it in. I know a lot of people like to rib me about potentially a Mark Hamill showing up there. And honestly, we would love to have him the last two. However, you got the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, which is the last of the OT. I mean, the possibility is there. I mean, it could happen. I hope it happens because I would love to see him. Missed out in Orlando, but still, the possibility is endless from over there. But you also have actors from Return of the Jedi that potentially could just be a hop skip. Like Michael Carter, who was Bib Fortuna, Julian Glover, Mike Quinn, Dave Barkley. There's a whole slew of European actors. Our friend and family member Sam Aline, who is the first female stormtrooper, making a lot of waves over in Europe now, who's been in all of the Disney era movies. But she's come over here. But still, there's a whole slew of people who have not come over in a while, who probably because of age or health might not travel to a United States celebration again, but could potentially be over there in the O2. I mean at the Excel will be absolutely fantastic. So we might have some opportunities for some people that us Yanks have not seen in quite a bit of time. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all we have for right now. But we gave you a lot. This is going to be available on demand directly after this episode. So make sure you check out on the Virtual Cantina Network, which is www.youtube.com/the Virtual Cantina Network. We're going to be as relevant as information comes out. Obviously, I mean, we don't know when tickets are going to be coming out or when the first guests are going to be announced. I mean, I would probably guess, and this is just a guess, that tickets might go on sale mid to late August, with first name as early as December, if not by February, March time, at least 2 months before Celebration. But for first episode, we gave you a lot of information, and we'll do another one once we get another some more information from there, and also once we start getting in for the autograph hall. One of our admins, Frank Rich, will be doing an episode celebrating autographs London style. So keep an eye out for that. But as we're closing up our first edition of the Intergalactic News Desk Europe, Gary, anything you want to say?
The one thought that I have in my mind is, and it's something that we'll maybe talk about later on when names and news start dropping. This year at Celebration, the sole focus was maybe on the Disney Plus era and a lot of High Republic content. There was no big mention of what's going to happen to Star Wars on the big screen, apart from sort of the news about Taika. I think that's going to be the area to keep our eye on moving towards Celebration Europe, is what's going to be happening on the big screen. I think it was a bit of a bold move not to have any real movie news at Celebration in Anaheim. So I think when we later come together and discuss, I think we're going to be casting our eye to what is the big news that is going to be relating to Star Wars on the big screen, whether that be animated, whether it be a standalone, whether it be something like a new trilogy. But I think the news that we're all going to be looking for moving forward is what's going to be happening for a galaxy far, far away on the big screen.
Which would be absolutely awesome, because there's nothing like opening weekend watching Star Wars in a theater, which is absolutely incredible. But that's pretty much it for what we have right now. Very excited. Looking forward to seeing you all in London. It's going to be my first celebration overseas, but also, like I said, my first time going back over to London in 32 years, which is pretty awesome for myself. But we're very excited for that. But hopefully we'll see you later on tonight as we watch the finale of Kenobi on the Virtual Cantina Network's Watch Along. And to make sure, Gary, is there any sites or anything you want to plug before we get out?
No, if you're interested in seeing any upcoming content, you can follow us on social media on all our platforms at Blabba the Hut, and just stay tuned for some really interesting interviews that are going to be coming up. And just to say, as always, thank you to you, Spence, and all the wonderful Jawas you have behind the scenes at the Virtual Cantina Network, for all you guys are doing for the fans. You're doing such a service, and I know everybody really appreciates it.
Thank you very much, and thank you much for Jeff for minding the controls in the back. So from Gary, from Spencer, we'll see you next time, and may the force be with you.
Hello there.
Second.